the views of the world. Unity makes the unfree free, it says. Tyranny has no walls high enough when the tyrannized combine, it says. Poverty and oppression may break your back, but stand together and you will stand tall, tall enough to see the road to liberty. And it unleashed upon the world a mighty ideal, a thunderclap of democratic creed to Ireland, not alone as a weapon against king and prince and the aristocracy's extensive machine of exploitation, but as a healing agent amongst the masses who are driven by faction and religious hate. And they together marched to the Marseillaise, Northern Protestant, Southern Catholic, some of them up to the very mouth of the enemy cannon, shouting or sang in hope as they stormed the Winter Palace. The reverberations from that first organised uprising by humanity against the dictatorship of wealth in France are still sounding and resounding around the world. Xu Enlai, a great Chinese socialist, when asked before his death in 1976 what he thought was 1789's greatest contribution to world history. He thought for a while and he said, I think it is certainly a bit early to say freedom of movement, for example, is one that is highlighted. Our young people who are denied so many other freedoms and rights are certainly availing fully of this freedom at the rate of at least 30,000 per year. You'll find them exercising this freedom in the harsh hostels of London or looking over their shoulder for the immigration agent in restaurant kitchens in Brooklyn or Greenwich Village. We also have freedom of the press, of course. Our bosses have complete and unhindered freedom to dunk their whole workforce on the dole without any compensation, destroying many lives in the process. These are the freedoms that we prize here. Soviet citizens have a right to free and immediate medical care if they fall ill. But Irish citizens who have money can jump in. The man with the gold makes the rules. And the basic rule is, if you have the gold, you have the freedom, the others are your slaves. But freedom is our prize, and freedom is acceptance of the necessity to change. Which brings me to my message to the Protestant people of Northern Ireland. My message to them is the same as I have been saying to you here tonight. The Protestant people of Northern Ireland need freedom. They need freedom from terror and fear. To find that freedom, they must accept the necessity to change. And from that will come an even greater freedom, freedom from the past which has betrayed them. The Protestant people of Northern Ireland cannot be given freedom from terror and fear. They must give that freedom to themselves. They must escape from the past, which is now betraying them, as Britain will betray them. They must stand on their own feet, and this party is holding out a helping hand. But to gain that freedom, they must accept the necessity to change. And I think by now, the Protestant people of Northern Ireland accept that they need change. But that is not enough. They must want change. They must rush forward towards change and control it before it crushes them in some cynical deal between the Provos and SDLP or between Fianna Fáil and the Tories. I think by now the Protestant people of Northern Ireland have given up any hope of long-term protection from the British Crown. I say Protestant people rather than unionist or loyalist, because I think that the terms unionist and loyalists and unionism and loyalism are no longer an adequate or accurate description of a proud people who are slowly facing the necessity to forge a new identity that will draw on the deepest wells of their culture. And when I call them the Protestant people of Northern Ireland, I feel sure they will understand that I'm using the phrase in a cultural and historical sense as well as in a religious sense. And I am certain it was not from loyalism or unionism, but from the Protestant and dissenting traditions that they drew the extraordinary fortitude and forbearance they have shown in the teeth of every atrocity and provocation. In short, it is Protestantism and not unionism that produces the moral fibre that marked out Mr. Gordon Wilson of Enniskillen as the kind of Irishman we would all like to be if only we had his courage and conviction. Mr. Wilson could have spoken the bitter word, but Mr. Wilson is a man who understands the limitless capacity of man to change, and so he spoke of reconciliation and peace. And I do not know of any person in this republic here, except a few psychotics, who were not changed in some way by this man's capacity to accept the necessity of the moment and to use it to strike a blow for freedom. The Protestant tradition and its secular and democratic sources will become all the more important as a source of strength as it becomes clear that the British will withdraw when it suits them, and that loyalism and unionism will be as confusing as the term republicanism, which for a long time to come will be stained by its abuse by sectarian killers. And so, as the Protestant people of Northern Ireland see the necessity to go back to their own resources, they could do worse than study the words of the Internationale. No princes from on high deliver us, no trust have we in prince or peer. Our own right hands, the chains must shiver now, chains of hatred, of greed, and of fear. This party wants to talk to the Protestant people of Northern Ireland. Every party in Ireland, from Fianna Fáil to Fine Gael, SDLP, Provisionals, seem to want to talk about them. Every faction in Britain, from Thatcher Tories to Livingston Trotskyites, seems to want to talk around them, behind their back, to talk them into a corner or a cul-de-sac or whatever, as if there were some primitive tribe whose redundant religious rites and curious cultural rituals should be sanitized and studied as if they were exhibits in a museum rather than a living people whose courage and endurance have seen them take the genocidal butchery of 200 small farmers and workers in Fermanagh without retaliation, and who gave an awesome display of tolerance and forgiveness as they knelt amongst their dead after Enniskillen. And what are these primitive Protestant principles? What are these curious cultural rituals? What are these outmoded political aspirations that strike the British and Irish media as placing the Protestant people of Northern Ireland outside the pale of normal, civilised society? The three traits of Northern Protestantism that make them unfit for any understanding by the mass media in Ireland or Britain seem to me to be as follows. First, the principle of private conscience, which is the foundation of Protestantism, and which we in this party believe to be the foundation stone of modern democracy. The principle of private conscience, which says, neither king nor pope is higher than the conscience of the common man and woman, and which principle became the foundation stone of the French Revolution under Robespierre. We in the Workers' Party very much want to see the primacy of private conscience embedded as a permanent part of our political culture, in place of the snivelling, craw-thumping cant and hypocrisy that passes for conscience among the Irish bourgeoisie. We very much need the
presence of the Protestant conscience in our country, and we need it now. The second trait is the tradition of rebellion against the dogmatism and authoritarianism of Rome. This arises, of course, from the principle of private conscience and the origin of protest. But the fact that they couch their anti-Romanism in rough and sometimes obsolete language should not blind us to their purpose, which is to defend liberty and personal freedoms. This is why their songs are so much about defending our freedom, religion, and laws. The third tradition of Northern Protestantism is a powerful commitment to industry, to taking on a task and giving it the full attention that the dignity of work demands. This is a tradition of fair trading and honest service and careful craftsmanship, the discipline of shipyard and school and factory and farm and market and mill. This is the engine that drove the Northern Industrial Revolution, a priceless resource, cruelly wasted by the Tories on the one hand and bombed senseless by the Provos on the other. These are three vital traditions that must be cherished if we are ever to reconstruct our country out of its present chaos. I believe that our island desperately needs these traditions. Thatcher and Haughey, Hume and Adams want to talk about the Protestant people of Northern Ireland as if they were a problem. The Workers' Party wants to talk to them because they are, in our view, not the problem, but the solution. The Protestant people now hold the key to peace in Ireland. Now that may sound strange when we all know that the Provos could stop their senseless slaughter in the morning. But of course we know the Provos can't do that because they can't change. They can't accept the need to change. But the Protestant people of Ireland can. They can bring change, they can bring peace, they can bring freedom. And that's what I want to talk to them about now in my last address as President of the Workers' Party. This party would not presume to tell you, the Protestant people of Northern Ireland, what you should do. But it has earned the right to talk to you about what we believe we must all do together in order to create a lasting peace and a lasting prosperity on this island of Ireland. Talk is cheap, but the right to talk comes with a high price, and we have paid that price. To produce their credentials, to produce their cards. We can produce them with pride. We're the only party in Ireland whose papers are stamped with peace, whose cards show us to be paid up members of that union of hearts and minds, which is our only protection against civil war, whose records of resistance to terrorism and tribalism are written in the blood of our members. So, as you examine our documents, you will be turning the pages of 20 years of history. Years of hardship, years of heroism, years of sorrow, years of struggle, years of pity, but years of pride, the best years of our lives. For 20 years now, we have lived in the shadow of civil war. For 20 years, we in the Workers' Party have struggled to prevent the shadow of civil war becoming the substance of civil war. For 20 years now, butchers in balaclavas and sectarian savages tried to terrorize our people into civil war, while we have held open the narrow path of peace so that the people of Ireland, Protestant and Catholic, might pass through to a better land. For 20 years now, we have stood against sectarianism, alone, abused, and often abandoned by those whose vision could not see through the long night. For 20 years now, we have, like Cuchulainn, tied ourselves to the stone of liberty so that we might not fall or fail our people. and the best and bravest in our party have given their lives to hold that path of peace. For 20 years we have never left our post. For 20 years we survived and held the path to peace and democracy as Billy Macmillan told us to do. And now we think that you, the Protestant people of Northern Ireland, should move forward into the sunlight, move proudly to the forefront, and lead us through that path to peace. No surrender. Anish tá dera ráchagam, tá dera maré tagha, agus níl le rá cúpla focail scar. Agus iad na focail scar na cín is Jackra I'm sure, ordinta. Bhálam buicas a gháil I bhilig, agus le gach báil an party inniu, agus I rinne blianta, as an gar, agus an takeíocht, agus an dílseach a haspáin siad dam, agus an nói an muín a bhí a gcuibh asam comá. Tá súlagam go bhaig an tuachtar an nua, an takeíocht, an dílseach agus an muín céine óibh, agus galamdíobh go bhaig sé iad. My final words are for you and for all the members of the Workers' Party. I have given whatever I had to give for the party, for the people of Ireland and for a better world. Others have given much more. Others, comrades, have given their lives. But each one gives what they can and all work in a spirit of comradeship. That's what wins all struggles, and that's why I must thank each one of you and all members of the party now and over many years for the great help and support and loyalty they have given to me and for their belief in me over the years. I'm sure you will all give the same support, loyalty and comradeship to the new president of the party, whom you will elect tomorrow morning. I pledge mine. I wish to thank the comrades and fraternal delegates from abroad for coming here to our annual conference, many of whom are engaged in struggle far more oppressive regimes. I know other delegates will forgive me if I make a special mention at this time of the bitter and bloody struggle of the Palestinian people and warmly welcome the PLO representative. I have just one thing to say to the Israeli Prime Minister, Mr. Shamir, and it is an old Yiddish saying, if you haven't got compassion, how can you call yourself a Jew? May I say a special word of thanks to all my comrades, supporters and friends in Dublin West constituency. Their level of work and commitment has been outstanding, but I have no relief to offer them because I intend to be out there in the midst of struggle for a long time to come. Finally, with my last words to you, may I very specially thank the best and most committed worker this party has ever had, whose commitment and work go back more years than even I can remember, who is still urging people on when we are all exhausted. Comrades and friends, I salute Mé McGill.
How are you?
Can I have your attention for a moment, please, because I want to call